Hello and welcome back to the Final Lap podcast. This is Josh. I'm joined as always by Sam, and we got a lot to get to today with the NASCAR race in Phoenix. But first, Sam, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
It was great. Really enjoyed this race at Phoenix, and I'm ready to get talking about that and all of our other series that are either starting up or just around the corner.
Yeah, definitely. This first thing that we get to, though, is the NASCAR race at Phoenix, where Christopher Bell wins his third straight race and captures his second win at Phoenix in a dramatic green-white checkered finish, just ahead of his JGR teammate Denny Hamlin as they went side by side to the line. But ultimately, it was Bell who got to the checkered flag first. I mean, really, what more can we say about Bell that we didn't already last week? After winning two straight, now making it three straight on a third different style of track, just dominating in every fashion right now. Him and his team seem to be on it. And, it's just, I think we already went over a lot last week, but what else do we have to say for Bell here?
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing more to say. Just another type of course he picks up a win on, and this one felt even more dominant than the last two. It's just clear for this season. Obviously, there's a lot of other great drivers out there, but right now he's the most well-rounded driver in the series.
Yeah, definitely. I know last week we talked about his, lack of good finishes, I guess, at Phoenix whenever it comes down to it in the championship 4. He's won here before, and this is his second win now at Phoenix. So I think it's a place that, despite him not having his best finishes during the fall in the championship 4, I think it's a place that he can feel very comfortable and confident at when at least I think he'll get there at the end of the year and be fighting for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, this will just give him even more confidence. He was always pretty good at Phoenix just compared to those other guys that you expect to see in the championship 4. He was lacking a little bit behind. But, now 2 wins there. I think he's going to be more than confident when the time comes. I'd be shocked if he wasn't in that championship 4 at this point, even this early in the season. And I think he's definitely got the goods to get the job done when the time comes.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it is early in the season, but in this playoff format is, not always the most rewarding of a regular season winner. But do you think it is he's the championship favorite at this point, Bell, or do you think it's too early to tell just based on the fact that we've only ran 4 races so far?
It's crazy that he's not first in the standings right now.
Yeah.
How with 3 wins, I know he has a DNF, but still kind of ridiculous. I think that he should absolutely be the favorite for the regular season championship. And as far as the playoff championship goes, I think, I would put him as a slight favorite in that as well, but that's just so much tougher to kind of game plan for and tell, just given the format and, given how much lies at the end at Phoenix. We'll talk about Ryan Blaney later, but he's still great at Phoenix, and a couple other guys as well, have better records than Bell at Phoenix that we might see there at the end, or at least they did going into this weekend. But now with 2 wins, I think he's established himself as one of the best at that track.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Blaney obviously very good here. Logano has his 2 championship wins here in the last 3 years. But Logano had a tough day today. He was up there. I think he would have had a chance to win, to be honest, but before making that mistake coming to pit road, ultimately having to go off strategy just to get some solid stage points. Didn't really have a chance to win the race in the end, though. So I think really when you come down to it, Blaney, Bell, and Logano right now are the best at Phoenix, and they're going to be the ones that I kind of expect to be there at the end as well once we get to that championship 4.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a rough day for Penske as a whole, I guess, with that speeding penalty and taking Logano down. He finishes 13th, but he really could have been a top 5 car, at least on the day. And then, we'll get to Ryan Blaney's engine failure as well. And Austin Cindric had some nice runs, but he only ended up in 19th. So just not their best day on a track that they've usually dominated.
Yeah, well, we're coming up on 2 intermediate tracks coming up, and I think Bell has been very good at those too. I mean, it seems like this is kind of one of those things that I know it's really hard to win week in and week out, let alone once, twice, 3 times now. But do you think that Bell has the opportunity to keep the win streak going next week, or is this something that I think, probably with time it will eventually burn out? Do you think that this is the week coming up in Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good drivers in the field that it's tough to pick him every single week. I certainly wouldn't doubt him. I certainly wouldn't say he can't win next week. He deserves to be one of the few favorites up there. But we'll get to our race picks later. But I'm gonna pick somebody else this week and say that his streak comes to an end, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, since 2022, the beginning of the 2022 season, Christopher Bell has the third best average finish of anybody on intermediate tracks, two coming up in Vegas and Homestead. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to say that he keeps this thing going. It seems like he is just very in tune with everything right now, and his team is as well. They all seem very confident, as they should. 3 straight wins. So, it's one of those things that, it's very difficult to win in the Cup Series, like I mentioned, once, twice, 3 times in a row. But how he's feeling right now, it's hard to bet against him coming up with some, tracks coming up that feel comfortable for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just winning 3 out of the first 4 races and looking as good as he has, you can't really bet against him anywhere per se. But just nobody's going to win every race in NASCAR. There's just too much diversity in the series, too much strength at the top for someone to win that many races in a row.
Yeah, how many races do you think he gets to this season? He's already at 3 wins. What do you think is like the over-under now at this point for him in race wins?
I was thinking maybe 6 or 7, so I guess that would put the over-under at 6.5.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it could be, that could be his last race win of the year, or he could win like 10. But I'm going to say like 6.5 would probably be a good middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, we've been talking about how good he's been everywhere so far. It's hard to go with the under, but also there's just so many guys that can win week in and week out. So I think like the math and the statistics would say probably the under on that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility by any means that he goes over by just a little bit or even way over. Like you mentioned, it gets 8, 9, 10 wins.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got 30 plus races left, so him winning, I guess only need 4 more of those. That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But yeah, like you said, I mean, he could go. It could be a long stretch middle of the season where he doesn't get back in the winner's circle. It's just, you never really know with these things. It's a lot tougher to predict than some other series are.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets to that point, it would be kind of like a Larson 2021 type season, which we haven't seen many of those in like the modern NASCAR era. So it's definitely, he'd be getting up to rare air there, and it'd be hard to imagine that, someone keeps us up for that long. But the way he looks right now, it's very hard to bet against. I know that's probably a lot of recency bias, but still, I think that if anybody has the opportunity to get a season like that right now, I think Bell's has a great chance.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little recency bias, but at the end of the day, even before this season, he's a proven driver, won a number of races, and I mean, coming into this year, we both thought that he was going to be, I don't know if breakout driver is the right word because he was already one of the stars of the series, but we thought that he would be probably the driver of the year this year. Both had him to win the championship, so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, nothing would surprise me with him the rest of the way.
Yeah, like you mentioned, kind of a breakout driver, but not really. I think that for me, the breakout would be becoming that number 1 JGR driver. And with the side-by-side win against his teammate Denny Hamlin as well, also just kind of dominating the majority of this race. Well, you had some of your JGR teammates like Ty Gibbs getting lapped and having their own issues and stuff. To me, it seems like he's definitely taken that number 1 spot. I think that this weekend really proved that, and I think that he is the future of that JGR team. So if you're looking ahead for the next few years and you're a JGR or Toyota or Bell fan, I think it's a very good place to be right now.
Yeah, things are definitely looking up there, and I think he would be a great successor at that team to Denny Hamlin and the success that they've had there over the years. I think having him in the stable would ensure success there for another 5-10 years.
Yeah, I agree. Move to our personal top 3 for the week here. I had Christopher Bell number 1. We just had a lengthy discussion about him, so there's not too much left to say there. But in second, I had Josh Berry. I think he was the most impressive guy other than Bell this weekend, to be honest. Finished both of the stages in the top 10 and then 4th in the race. So I think that, it brings up the question of if we were underestimating the Wood Brothers program with Harrison Burton there the last few years, or if they've just given Berry a better car this year, because it's not just this race. They've shown promise at times at COTA, at Atlanta as well, at times at Daytona. So I think that they're in an improving situation, but I just don't know if that's because of Berry replacing Harrison Burton, or if they're just getting better equipment and utilizing that better as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to touch on them as well, because I've got Berry in my personal podium as well. I think I'm not sure whether we underestimated Wood Brothers, or if that car with Josh Berry was a really good fit. Berry's always been great at short tracks, so I'm glad that he has the car to help him now and be competitive tracks like this. I've got Christopher Bell first as well. Led 105 laps, won a stage, won the race, obviously. Average position of 2.66, which is crazy throughout the course of a whole race. So he was an easy number 1 for me. My number 2 on my personal podium is William Byron, leading 83 laps, 3.76 average position, which is still awesome. Won a stage and ended up coming in 6th, but also, kind of had some bad luck with timing of pit stops. And, it was really unfortunate not to be right there at the end, because he was the only driver really close to Bell throughout the day. And then my third, I have Josh Berry right there as well. A top 5 finish for Wood Brothers is always going to be great for them and for that team. And, it makes me excited as a fan, just having a long-time team like them come back and be competitive is always fun. So, I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the season, see what they can do on maybe some of these shorter or intermediate tracks. Phoenix is a little bit unique compared to other tracks of similar length, but I think Berry will be pretty competitive at a lot of those tracks.
Yeah, my final spot was Denny Hamlin, and I just think because it was his best finish of the year and his best performance by far to this point. So I just wanted to shout him out as well. But the Burton or the Berry thing, I think it's interesting because at the beginning of the season, I thought there was no way that team and that car could make the playoffs just based on unless they had like a super speedway win or something, just based on how they've performed the last few years. And Berry, I think he's a great driver, but he didn't necessarily have the best start with the closing up Stewart-Haas program last year. So I think that there was a lot of unknowns and question marks surrounding that team, and I just wasn't sure if I could have them anywhere near the playoffs. But at this point, if they can keep up, this level of success and relative success, at least, I think that they are, they might be just outside looking in for that final playoff spot once we get down to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any races where they're going to be like a favorite to win, but it certainly wouldn't shock me to see them steal a short track race and end up in the playoffs, which, like I said, I would love to see, see a team like Wood Brothers in the playoffs, for the second year in a row, I guess. That Burton won last year, obviously, I don't want to say it was luck, but it didn't feel right almost. I was happy he won the race, but, Berry being more consistently competitive this year, hopefully, and winning a race would really go a long way for Wood Brothers.
Yeah. For my stinker of the week, I had Spire Motorsports in general, all 3 drivers qualifying in the top 10, yet their best finish of the day ended up being McDowell in 27th. He had multiple issues throughout the day with his right front tire, and then Haley and Hocevar were caught up in the same wreck early on in the race. One that Haley was very involved in and Hocevar kind of just got caught up in. So I think that they really squandered a great opportunity, a time where it looked like they had a lot of speed throughout practice and qualifying that I thought was going to transfer over pretty well to the race, not expecting them to win or anything, but you were expecting at least one top 10 out of that, and to have your best finish at 27th. Not going to get it done for a team like that when you really have to capitalize on opportunities of weekends where you have speed if you're one of those lower teams.
Yeah, that's a good pick, and really disappointing for weekend for them given the circumstances. My first thought was just Ryan Blaney's engine just letting him down and costing him. We talked all week about how good he is at this track, and both thought he would win. And it was really disappointing to see. It wasn't his best race at Phoenix compared to some of the other performances, but still would have been likely top 10, maybe top 5. So that was disappointing to see the engine go down. But after talking about it, probably go a little broader and just go with all of Penske. Just between the engine problems for Blaney and then, Logano still finished 13th, which is respectable. But like we said, he could have done a lot more on the day without his penalty. And then, Cindric was fine in 19th, had some moments, led a few laps. But just for a track that they've done so well on, I mean, going into the week, it felt like Logano and Blaney were the two guys that, there were other favorites, but those were the two guys I had my eyes on the most. And to see them not put a car even in the top 10 was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, kind of a miss for Penske here, but we've seen them start this way for multiple seasons now where they start off kind of slow and build throughout the year, and then obviously we know what they do when the playoffs come. So I think, there's not much like long-term to be concerned at, but definitely a missed opportunity for the weekend from Penske. But, going off of what you were talking about Blaney, blowing that engine, tough end to his race there because he was on for, it seemed like another top 10 before that happened and, ended his streak of top 5s at Phoenix. I still think he could have even gotten up to the top 5 despite having those engine issues throughout the day. I mean, you saw him come on the radio and bring up his engine problems and then immediately make passes on Chastain and Wallace right after that. So that car still had speed despite the issues he was facing. And yeah, I think that it's a shame that, it had to end this way, but eventually you're going to get some mechanical issues that, you just can't, there's nothing you can do about that. So tough to see Blaney's streak end like this at Phoenix, but also I don't think there's anything to be concerned about if you're a Blaney fan. He looked like he had plenty of speed and was still able to do a lot with a car that he was obviously having to nurse around the track a bit.
Yeah, I'd absolutely say from Blaney's perspective and Penske's, there's nothing to be concerned about. I mean, part of why I had them as a stinker of the week was because it looked like they clearly had the speed.
Yeah.
Logano and Blaney both showed great speed throughout the day and would have had top finishes there like we expected if not for their what happened to both of them respectively. So I'm not concerned at all. Just a little bit of a disappointing weekend, and yeah, especially for Blaney, just because we talked him up all week and was looking forward to seeing him racing at the front. And we still got to see some of that, but it would have been cool to see him up there in that battle we had the last few laps.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up another just kind of general question here, something that I noticed and I've seen a lot of other people notice as well is, what's up with Ty Gibbs right now? He got caught up in an accident at Atlanta. He finished 32nd, was just off the pace at COTA, completely finished 34th, and then this week had the car troubles and finished 25th. Although he wasn't the quickest throughout the day before that, he had gone a lap down a little bit prior, and then he was actually fighting when he had those car troubles, around the top 10, but he still definitely didn't have the speed that his other JGR teammates had throughout the day. It just seems like this start to the season has been kind of off for him. It doesn't seem like it's anything, long-term to be too concerned about, just because one of those was an accident, one of those was car troubles, and then the other one where he was off the pace was a road course, and I don't think Ty Gibbs has been known as a road course guy for the majority of his career. So I think that, if this continues and this is a trend, I think it's something to be really concerned about for Gibbs. And I don't think it shows that he's not, capable of being in the Cup Series. I think he's shown many great finishes. I think the bigger concern, other than, this stretch for why the concern for him being in the Cup is that he hasn't won yet. I still think that that's going to come. I think that he is still talented enough to win the Cup Series. But, sitting 34th in the standings is not a great place to be. at any point in the season. It is early, and he has the time to turn things around. But it's definitely a concerning kind of trend here for Gibbs, but one that I think he can turn around.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a good look, especially given the success of his teammates so far, but I think he'll right the ship and turn things around eventually. We're only 4 races in, so not cause for a total panic. And like you said, multiple races were cut short for reasons that were kind of outside of his control, at least a little bit. He was today, like you said, he was struggling on pace at times, but he was running 13th with 8 to go when that brake rotor issue happened. So, I mean, that wouldn't have been like a banner day for him, but it would have, been a really nice finish given where he started these first few races, and would have been a great way to turn things around. So, yeah, it's certainly a little bit concerning, but I'm not ready to totally panic on this one. I think maybe give him a couple more races. If we continue to see the struggles, especially on some more intermediate and short tracks as those start to ramp up, then we'll probably start to sound the warning bells. But right now, I think we're okay, just a slow start.
Yeah, I think, you look at a guy around him like Brad Kay, who I think is 33rd in points right now. We're not really sounding the alarm bells for him like we are for Ty Gibbs, and I think that's obviously due to the fact that Keselowski has been in the Cup Series for so long. We know what he's capable of in the end. I think it kind of is a similar situation. I just think we're looking at them differently because they have different pedigrees as drivers throughout their time in the Cup Series. I think they're both going to turn it around, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of them made the playoffs, to be honest.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, they're very different situations, like you said, just given their levels of success in their careers and where they're at right now. And, I certainly think Ty Gibbs will have some success later in his career. But, yeah, they're just kind of different situations. And like you said, I think they'll both get it turned around. It may not be either of their best seasons, but I think they'll get back to some good finishes eventually. And, well, at least one of them, honestly, will probably make the playoffs. One of them will probably have a moment, have a weekend that gets them in. Out of those two, I would lean Brad a little more just because we've seen him do it so many times. We've seen him squeak in even some seasons that weren't his strongest, but either one wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their teammates, Christopher Bell being Ty Gibbs' teammate, second in the standings, 3 wins, obviously. Denny Hamlin, 7th in the standings. And then Brad Kay's teammate, Chris Buescher, 10th in the standings. So their teammates have speed. I think it's just, they haven't been able to maximize what they've had so far throughout the season. And over the course of 36 races, I think that'll change, and the fortunes will kind of go more in their favor than what they are right now. So not anything to be super concerned about, in my opinion, at least, but definitely something to keep an eye on and see if it continues throughout the season.
Yeah, pretty much it. Not overly concerned with either one right now. Definitely something to keep an eye on, but we still got a lot of races to go.
Yeah. Just a quick fantasy update. We forgot to do it last week, but this week, after 4 weeks, I lead 96-84. I think Bell's been a great addition to my team so far. Glad to pick him up in the second round. But yeah, I think that this is going to be close to the end. I think because there are so many guys on both of our teams, it's just the points are going to kind of average out, and it'll be a tough battle to the end.
Yeah, I guess I messed up not taking Bell. I think, honestly, my thought process was I thought Larson would win more during the season than Bell. And, even though I picked Bell to win the championship, the playoffs are just so unpredictable. It's tough to lean on that. So, but yeah, just I guess I messed up not taking Bell. But like you said, it's a long season. It'll probably even out.
Yeah, I had Bell to win the championship too, and I picked him in the second round. So I think it's just one of those things where, because the game is, more favored on wins throughout the regular season, I didn't expect Bell to have this kind of a start, to be honest, even though I picked him to win the championship. I figured it'd be kind of a 2-3 win season kind of thing for him, and he would do good through the playoffs and get back to the championship 4 and have a great chance there. Obviously, he still could only finish the season with 3 wins, but I don't think that'll be the case. So yeah, Bell's been definitely great to have on the team.
Yeah, it's funny thinking about it. It feels like mentally, it feels like Larson's had a little bit of a slow start to the season,
Yeah.
but he's already had two, I guess, podium finishes. He finished third in Atlanta and third yesterday in Phoenix. So, at the end of the day, it's not a guy I'm concerned about either. It just feels strange that he hasn't won a race yet.
Yeah, and Larson was also running pretty well at Coda, I think, before he had that tire come off. So, yeah another thing that is keeping him a little bit behind, but I still think he's going to be fine throughout the season, too.
Yeah, I agree.
Just quickly, thoughts on the option tire format that was implemented by NASCAR here this week in Phoenix. They did it 2 times last year, once in the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, and then a little later on in the season at Richmond, I believe. I think it was, in my opinion, it was a great addition. I think the soft tire and hard tire kind of difference allows for a big, kind of strategy play and can mix up the field a little bit and put it in, the team's hands a little bit more for strategy, but also in the driver's hands to conserve those tires and to make the most out of the softs when they have them. So I think that it's been, a great addition, and I'd love to see it on really all of these short tracks, because I think that that's where it will work best. Also on road courses, I'm surprised they haven't tried it on road courses yet. I think that that'll be something that'll come as well, as we see all these other series in the world use different tire compounds on road courses. I think that's something that'll be coming around the corner pretty quickly for NASCAR, based on the so far, at least in my opinion, the success of this option tire kind of format.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get there soon. I mean, I like the idea, and it certainly had some good moments. I do think that, it's tough. We haven't seen, I feel like especially this week, there wasn't a ton of variation on strategy. There was a couple guys, that went for stage points or something earlier in the race and used up their option tires. But, for the most part, everybody was on them at the end, everybody that was competitive. And, I think I really like the idea, and I think it's had some great moments, but I'm looking forward to seeing them kind of experiment with it more and see, maybe switch up some strategies a little bit. I do like that drivers were forced to manage them a little bit, and, we saw guys struggle with it here and there, and we saw guys like Michael McDowell, a blue tire and spun out, and so I like that. I like that drivers are forced to manage the tires a little bit more, and that adds another dimension to the race. But yeah, I'm interested to see if, depending on the track, we get some more variation in the strategies.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to see, and I still think it worked very well, but to have a little bit more fall off in those tires, I think would be a very good thing. I think they lasted about 70 laps, which is fine, and it's less laps than the primary tire was going, which ultimately is the goal. But I think if you could get them around 40 or 50 laps is when they really start to fall off. I think that would be huge as well. And then even implementing the softer tire full time on short tracks, I think once we have the data that we've gathered through this and we can make those adjustments, obviously it's going to vary between track conditions and track temperature and all that. But I think that once we have more data on this, and Goodyear can make a tire that is able to kind of erode away after 40 or 50 laps, I think would make this even better, because sometimes it felt like there wasn't enough of a difference between staying on the soft once it got to that 60, 70 lap range. It felt like you were going about the same speed as the primaries. And then we never really had any runs that lasted much longer than about 70 laps because of the way the cautions went and everything. So I think that making that change would be very beneficial and helpful as well. And just kind of even having more of a difference between the strategies of soft and hard tires.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that would be a great change to make, and I think that would certainly help switch up strategies like I was talking about. So yeah, I'm all in for that, and anything that adds to the tire management, I think would make it more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Tire management, I think, is the name of the game right now, and Goodyear trying to figure out a tire that works maybe a little longer than Bristol did last year, but maybe a little bit shorter than it did here today, I think is perfect. Kind of just nitpicking at it because I still think it was good today, but I'd like to see just a little bit more out of Goodyear from that. But otherwise, I think that the strategy part was good. I think the tire itself lasted pretty well and had a decent mix between, longevity and also, its ability to give performance. So I think it was a good step in the right direction and definitely better than what we've seen from Goodyear in the past few years in trying to make a little bit softer compounds at other tracks.
Yeah, I think it's certainly off to a good start, and I think they're going to continue to make progress with it, and hopefully in these next couple seasons, like you said, we'll start to see them use them more on road courses and different kinds of tracks, and they'll strike that balance perfectly, and that'll be really exciting to watch once we get there.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move to our predicted winner for next week in Las Vegas. NASCAR heading back out to the desert for the second straight week. My predicted winner is going to be Kyle Larson there. He has 2 wins in the last 6 races here, led 405 laps, which is the most of anyone in that time period. And he has a average finish of 8.7, which is the 4th best here in the next-gen era. I just think that this is a track that Hendrick has been very good at. Larson has been very good at as well. I expect those Chevys to show up pretty well. So, most of the top 5, top 10 is littered with Chevys in terms of, track average these past few years at Las Vegas. So I expect the Chevys to show up, and obviously Hendrick and Larson are at the top of the list of the Chevys. So Larson, I think, is going to have to be my pick here this week.
Yeah, I was tempted to just go with Christopher Bell again, but like I said, I'm going to switch it up a little bit this week, and not too much because this guy's been almost as good, even though he's only won 1 race to Bell's 3, and that'd be William Byron. He seems to have the best car next to Bell right now, has been almost equally as good throughout the season, and I think even if it's not this week, he's definitely going to win again soon. He won here in the spring of 23 and has finished top 10 in the last 4 Vegas spring races. So I think he's going to be one to watch this week, and I think he's going to be my favorite to win. As far as a little more of an underdog, even though he's an established guy in the series and has won a few times, I'm going to go with Ross Chastain as sort of a guy to watch this week. He actually has the best average finish of anyone here in the next-gen car and has 5 top 10s in the 6 races since that car was implemented. So he's definitely one to watch out for and might be a nice underdog to keep your eyes on depending on what the odds look like.
Yeah, I think a couple other guys to keep an eye on as well. Joey Logano, 2 wins here in the last 6 races. Similar to Larson, has a worse average finish, though, by about 4 positions in that time period. Logano, I think the Fords also show up pretty well here as well. So Logano has had success here, and he's one to watch out for. And then Kyle Busch, I think, is kind of an underdog to watch out for as well this week because he has a pretty good average finish here. He's had a good history here. He's kind of a local guy. He's got all of those good feelings whenever he comes to Las Vegas, but also I think he's been sneakily a little bit better this year than what we've given him credit for. A lot of very solid, just like kind of running around the top 10 kind of days for him. Obviously at COTA he had a great chance to win. Very different track than what we're going to go to at Vegas. But I think that he is off to a pretty good start to this season, much better than last year started, and I think that he's got a great opportunity to make something of it this weekend as well. So I'd watch out for him for maybe a win, but definitely a top 5 or a top 10.
Yeah, he's another guy I certainly wouldn't count out at this track. I'm excited. I think there's going to be another really competitive race. We've gotten a few great races so far, I feel like, and I think Vegas is going to deliver.
Yeah, I agree. Also, one more guy to shout out. I think Tyler Reddick is another one to watch out for. He's always good on the intermediates, and he's got an average finish of 12.12 or 12.2 in the last 6 races here. So he's got some good feelings around here. A guy to watch out for a top 5 or a top 10. with his success on intermediates and also here as well.
Yeah, I certainly think he's due. I got to give him credit. I was a little bit worried that they would take a little bit of a step back this year, but he already has a second and a third, and not a perfect season so far, but certainly a really solid start. And I think he's going to get that win sooner or later, and they're going to get back in the playoffs again this year.
Yeah, and I think he had a great chance at Phoenix as well this past week, but he had some power steering issues that he had to battle through, and that's just going to be tough at a place like Phoenix. So, I think Reddick is one to watch out for some wins in these next few weeks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's everything for today in the NASCAR Cup Series. We'll be back with another episode later this week for our F1 season preview and some discussion there, giving our rankings for the teams and the drivers, and then also making our predictions for the Australian Grand Prix as well. It's the first race week of the season for F1, and we're really underway now with all three series up and going, all three of the major series that we cover at least.
Yeah, we'll have F1 and NASCAR coming this next week, and like you said, the F1 preview I'm excited for. I think this could be one of the closest seasons we've had in a long time in F1, and I think there's going to be a lot to discuss, so can't wait to get into that.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to be a great season this year. A few different manufacturers and teams that I think can win, constructors, and just super excited to see how this goes. And I think the top 5 battle, at least when I was looking at it, is going to be very difficult for me to judge who's going to come out on top there.
Yeah, the top 5 or 6 I think is going to be really hard to get right this year, and there's some jeopardy in the midfield and further down too. So I'm excited to get to all of it.
Yep. Well, that's everything for this week. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you later this week.
Yeah. See you soon.